Hey there, it's Hoang with Hand Therapy Secrets. This episode of my show, we are going to be talking with Susan Weiss. Now, I've known her from afar for so long, but here I get to connect with her and talk to her about how she developed the Purple Book. Now, if you're an OT, you're a PT, anyone who is studying to become a certified hand therapist has to know about her book, The Purple Book. And this is me talking to her about her journey as an OT CHT, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So welcome, Susan. I'm so excited to have you here. This is Susan Weiss of Exploring Hand Therapy. Did I say that correctly?
You did. Thank
Exploring
you.
Hand Therapy. But I feel like you've done so much more. Didn't you have another company, or is it the Treatment to Go?
Treatment to Go is a part of Exploring Hand Therapy. So it's a DBA, which we can discuss that later if you want, but you know what that is, but some of the listeners might not be familiar with it. But we did Treatment to Go as a DBA so we could reach some of the generalists and not just hand therapists. So that's why it's Exploring Hand Therapy and DBA Treatment to Go.
Oh, okay.
And then we have live conferences as well as our streaming platform.
Okay, awesome. So tell me a little bit more. Like, I've always known you when I was when I came out of school and I started wanting to become a certified hand therapist. Your name is like one of the first names that I heard, and I think that your name is one of the names that most people hear when they think about becoming a certified hand therapist. You are like the author of the most famous CHT, prep book. Can you tell us a little bit about like how all this started, your journey to becoming a hand therapist and eventually becoming one of the most popular authors around when it comes to hand therapy?
Well, that's an awful lot of credit. Thank you. Very, very, very sweet. But the story is pretty simple. So I went to school at University of Florida. So we are
Go Gators!
Go Gators together. And I graduated in 1990 in the olden days, like when you guys were in diapers. So anyhow.
I was right after you.
You were?
I started there. Well, okay. So I started in 94.
Okay.
Yeah, I started
so not
in 94.
Too far.
Not too far.
Okay.
Started in 94, and then I got my master's in 2000. So
very cool.
So, yeah.
Well, I graduated in 90, and I knew I was going to do hands right from the beginning. I had seen a hand therapist at a hospital, and I was like, okay, that's what I want to be. It was at a high school tour that we had. It was in this program called Medical Explorers, and I knew right away, okay, that's what I want to be. She was, doing hand therapy. I'm like, this is really awesome. That's what I want to be when I grow up. And I knew you could
That was it? Like, you
never
had a wavering?
Nope. I did have a wavering of what should I be, an OT or PT, because they said you could be an OT or a PT and be this hand therapist, because I didn't really care, honestly, at the time. I was like, whatever's easier. So after realizing I'd have to take physics, I immediately ruled out PT. So OT it was. So then they say, well, it's really hard to get into OT school. I'm like, oh, why did I pick OT? It's going to be really hard. I'm not that smart. I'm never going to be able to do it. I'm like, okay, just wrap your mind around it, and you better apply to every single school that has OT. And at the time, there was only about 26 schools, I think, and I applied to them all because they said it's really, really hard. Yeah, I know. Wow. It was all by paper. You had to, write everything and send it all in by hand. There was no, it was before the internet, really.
Me too.
Yeah. So anyhow, I sent them all the applications in, and I got in all but Tufts. So I was like, oh, darn, I really wanted to go to Tufts. I was so shocked. I couldn't believe it. But being a Floridian I'm like, I'll stick with Florida. So Florida it was, didn't bat an eye, went off to Florida and knew right away I just wanted to do hand therapy. And so, of course, we had the 6-week specialty internship, which I did hand therapy. And when I was graduating, they had said there was going to be this CHT thing. It had just started. So it wasn't even, totally done. The first year was 1990, I think, or 89. So it was like super great timing. I'm like, oh yeah, I can do the CHT thing. And then we found out that you had to wait 5 years before you could take the test.
Yeah.
So when we went to study, there was only ASHT, and then there was no HTCC yet. And so we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to study. There was no guidelines, nothing. So it was really stressful because I felt like, oh, there's nothing to study from. What are we going to do? So my study partners and I wrote questions for each other, and that's how we studied. We wrote tons and tons of questions for each other, and we asked the surgeons that we worked for to give us quizzes all the time. So I was constantly being quizzed on my questions.
Wow.
Every single day, getting questions to try and learn this stuff. So that was kind of the idea. So when I said, okay, if I ever do get fortunate enough to pass this exam, I'm going to write a book with lots of questions in it, because if I pass, that means that the question thing worked. And I was fortunate enough to pass, and the Purple Book came out. First edition was with Elsevier, and it was extremely well received, and people loved it. And then it just kept growing, and more people were contributing and providing information and sharing, great tidbits on, hands and upper extremities. So that was the basic story of how the Purple Book came along. And then as that developed, we came up with the practice exams and other study modules. So our primary, source of providing information to people was with materials to help prepare for the exam. And then as that grew, we had people asking for other materials and courses for beginners, intermediate, advanced. So we have over 200 courses that are.
You have a ton of courses.
A ton of courses.
You have a ton of courses. Let me ask you, what is your most popular course that people purchase from you?
We have two most popular. The most popular is our CHT prep bundle, because it comes with so much and it's a really good price, and it has access to great study modules, which has 20 courses, and it also has 3 practice exams with it. So it has a nice array of material. So that's one of our best sellers. And then our physical agent modalities is also an extremely popular course.
Sure.
Because like in Florida, when we graduate, we're not physical agent certified, so we have to get extra hours. It is. And so we developed that course a long time ago.
Why the schools don't just add it in? I remember that being such a huge thing when I came out of school, and I was like, I want to become a hand therapist. No one would hire me because I didn't have skills, but I'm like, how do I get skills if I don't get a job in it? And I'm in Miami, so I came back to Miami after graduating from UF as well. And I would look in the newspaper. Back then it wasn't the only thing online was like monster.com.
Right.
To look for jobs, but you're still going through a newspaper and like searching, like, okay, where can I? And I would call the shadiest places. Susan, you don't even know half the interviews and the places I called. So, because they would say that they were looking for a hand therapist or they're looking for an occupational therapist. And I would go to some of the shadiest place. And even in those places, they were like, do you have a physical agent mortality certification?
They still asked, right?
Yeah. I'm like, what? I have to have what? So yeah, so it's like, okay, that's going to be my first class
Number
I
one.
purchase, so I can do ultrasound and e-stem and all these other things.
Yeah. And it's not even
tell you my opinions on.
Well, it's a funny thing that you said. It's like, I'm like I've always been the least user of modalities in any clinic I've ever been in. I'm like I'm a super hands-on, like breathing, holistic, like let's do mindset and the power of, just the way we are, our energies and stuff, have these great abilities to heal. And so I didn't really want to do it, but you really have to have it. And there's so many states that require it.
The public wanted you to create something.
Yes. So I was fortunate enough I couldn't teach that course if I tried, honestly. It's
my God.
It's so over my skill set, honestly. And so
you can't teach things you don't believe in, though. You really can't.
That's true.
You can't teach things like you already said it. It's not your favorite thing to do. So, it'd be like really, you would not be convincing. Please use ultrasound. I think if you, I hate ultrasound. People are like, oh, well, you ultrasound? I'm like, no, listen, I know the protocol book says you can start using ultrasound. says you can start using it, but that doesn't mean you have to use it. So many other things to do. Why would I want to waste 10 minutes?
Yeah, there's such a limit of the time you have and the ability to, you know, perform stuff with your clients. So you do have to pick and choose. And I was fortunate enough to have Paul Bonzani as one of my educators, and he's brilliant with the modality. So he's taught that one. He probably
loves it, so he could teach it well.
He does.
Yes, you gotta really love it.
I do, and that's why I have such a huge array of educators, because, you know, I'm not the, you know, top of the line educator on every single topic. There's some topics that I love, and there's some topics that I don't love, but there's so many topics out there that people want to learn about. So
but you're essentially the curator. So you're like, I like you, I think you can teach this stuff, you know. Come on, that's great. What a great business model.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of years, and part of the.
How long has it been, Susan? How long has it been?
Well, I really went into hands right away, and I've always I've been surgeon trained and worked with hand surgeons direct. So I looked at the idea of starting my own clinic, which I never did. I thought it would be very interesting, but after looking into that avenue, I thought I really wanted to go into education, because I loved teaching. And so I was teaching for a lot of companies and traveling all over the world. And it was a lot of fun, and I loved doing it. I was teaching splinting, advanced splinting, and just an array of stuff. And it was great. And I really loved doing it. But then I had a child, and the thought of leaving this little tiny human by itself was not that appealing. And I was nursing, and this nursing thing was interfering with, you know, work and traveling. So I wasn't quite sure how to deal with that. So I thought, let's make a video of some of the stuff we teach. So back then we made a VHS. Remember what those are?
Yes, I do.
So
I got rid of mine like 2 years ago.
So I made a VHS, and I started selling VHS, and we did, before it was vogue to do this kind of stuff, we actually did live stuff on the internet when the internet first started. And I mean, I was pregnant with them, and just over the time, it was pretty cool. So we were doing live stuff before live was cool. And we did VHS, and then we switched to CDs, and then we went to DVDs, and now we just do solely online. So we've kind of evolved, you know, the business model as things changed. So what was the question? Did I miss what your question was? No, you did.
Yeah. Okay. No, you got it. So I wanted to ask, well, as a CHT, because you said that you are surgeon trained, you worked with surgeons for quite a while and stuff like that. What would you say that you are, quote unquote, famous for? Like, what are you really good at? And can you share what that is for those that are watching?
You know, I don't know if I would say I'm famous for anything. I think you're right.
In your mind, you're famous. Susan famous.
I'm a little bit shy, but I honestly, what my favorite stuff to treat in the clinic was really bad trauma. So that was my favorite thing, because I worked for surgeons, so I was able to go to the surgeries with them, and they'd call me, like, come to the surgery suite. We got this great, you know, ridiculous spaghetti arm. And so I'd race over there. It didn't matter what I was doing, unless I was nursing. And then that's when I kind of changed my whole system. But that I would race over there and, you know, be with them in the surgery. I'd see the tension on the repairs, and then we'd decide, you know, what are we going to do? How are we going to treat this patient? And then we'd start the therapy, you know, based on what we actually did in the OR. Even though I wasn't doing anything, I was privileged to have that opportunity with the surgeon. So that's what I guess I would say I would, if you said I'm famous for, I'm famous for making sure I'm really involved with whatever cases that came up. And I love that. It was such a great experience, and I loved being surgeon trained, and it was just a great way to learn for me.
Yeah. I think that's most CHT's dream, you know. CHT, I want to be this hand therapist, you know, and it's that idea of like, you're seeing these traumas, you're working with a surgeon, and they're going back and forth with you. And definitely one of the areas of hand therapy. It's not the only area. So like, that's my thing. It's like, I want to teach other people that there's more than just that, right?
Right.
Because there is that, and that is exciting. And it is fun to be collaborative, but not everyone has that opportunity, and not all opportunities last forever. Right. So when we talk about longevity of career and stuff, you had that, which set your foundation to allow you to really be able to do what you do right now, which is be the curator of all courses having to do with hand therapy and helping OTs become CHTs.
Right. I've been, I was very fortunate with having that opportunity with hand surgeons. And that's why I really did consider, at some point, I'd like to have a clinic because I loved it. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't want to work for somebody forever. So I really wanted to have my own business. And it sounded like a really good idea to have my own clinic. And I'm like, I just don't know if that would work for me with what I've done, because I was really spoiled, I didn't really necessarily want to have, hundreds of different referral sources coming in where I'd have to, I didn't really like the ones that would come from outside that were misdiagnosed, which I'm sure you get plenty. And I just felt like I'm too mouthy for that. I wouldn't be able to be appropriate and deal with them appropriately. And I was thinking, this is not going to work for me. So if I get a whole bunch of misdiagnoses, it's going to be hard for me to bite my tongue. And so because I was working with surgeons, I didn't get too many outside referrals, but when I did, and they were not like perfectly diagnosed, then I was frustrated because I couldn't really say anything, or I didn't know how.
I didn't know surgery themselves were not so great, right?
Or the wrong surgeries. You'd be like, they had a bilateral carpal tunnel. They didn't even have carpal tunnel based on what I saw. So I was thinking, it's just not that wouldn't be for me. So that's why I was like, what other areas could I go into? And then the book came, and then from the book, the courses and the teaching, and it was just, it just kind of fell into its place into that
voila, direction. You have this amazing life. And
I have 4 children. Don't forget that. So
they'll grow up.
Yeah, I have twin 8-year-olds. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. They are. Yeah. It's going to take you a little while.
Yeah. Twins at 43.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. So I was going to ask you one other thing. It seems like a lot of people are looking to prepare for the next exam. If there was only one piece of advice you could give an occupational therapist to help them pass boards, what would that be?
Well, I do get a lot of calls, and I do a lot of one-on-one training with therapist vetting. And the biggest piece of advice, I think, of all the things that we talk about, because I talk a lot just like you do, and it's great talking to you. I think the most important piece is to let them know that to be confident, and don't let the fear overtake them, because people are like, it's a really hard exam, it's got a really low pass rate, and they get themselves very freaked out before they even start the journey. So I kind of try and wash that out from the beginning. Like, let's start with, I'm ready to take this exam, whether it's a year or 2 years, whatever it is, let's make a plan. So the biggest one piece I say is, don't go in at it like, this is really hard and I'm going to make it really hard. Just go in at it with, I can do this. I'm confident. I'm going to do the things that it's going to take to get me where I need to be.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I say the same thing, confidence. It's that second guessing. But really, one of the biggest things I hear too is the overwhelm, right?
Right.
The overwhelm. And I'm about to release a video about that.
Awesome.
How to really minimize that overwhelm. And the reason why people think it's so overwhelming is because they get too far ahead of themselves.
This is true.
They get like, oh my gosh, like everybody fails. No, not everyone fails. There's so much to read. You just gotta start with, So one of my biggest advice is to create a habit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to talk more about that in one of the videos. I think I made it already. I think I'm going to post it pretty soon.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that because it does, it's great that you have all these resources that we're able to refer to each other and facilitate growth with the therapists wanting to get into our field, because we need lots of great therapists, and
We do.
adding CHT to their title just gives them even more confidence
It
that
does.
they're doing a great job. And I tell people, don't get too worked up. It is just a test, and just relax and put your hands in it, get into it. You got to get a little dirty. You got to go in the OR or go and volunteer somewhere. And if you volunteer somewhere and you miss questions and don't get it right, those are the things you're really going to remember later. I mean, I still remember some of the questions I got wrong, and 20 years ago, and it sticks with you because you're like, ooh, how did I even say that? That was really embarrassing, but it's okay. So just knowing, if you can find a place to volunteer, if you're not in it fully, which a lot of people aren't, and they want to be, but it's hard because they run into the quandary of they can't find a job in hands because nobody wants to hire them because they don't have their CHT.
Right.
And so they find it hard to get a job in hand. So they dabble a little bit, but it's not enough because a lot of the stuff, it is really hard to read it and understand it no matter what. Even watching a video, you just kind of have to touch it, feel it, or be in it, observing it really up close. So I think that there's a lot of practitioners that are so willing to share, whether it's the surgeons or therapists. You might have to drive a little because maybe they're afraid that you might take over their practice or something. I'm not sure, but
I think a lot of times nowadays a lot has to do with the fact that time is a factor.
It's true.
Time is a factor. It's not 20 years ago. I mean, not even 20 years ago, because I've been practicing for 20 years. Longer than that, the way we practice as therapists was different, or that mindset, the mentality, reimbursement, insurance, all that good stuff was very different. And time has everything to do with it. So nowadays it's so difficult to give that amount of time. I mean, people are willing to share. I share a ton of stuff. You share a ton of stuff. I know lots of therapists, Facebook groups and stuff like that, but you have the sharing and then you have the oversharing, right? So you have so much information that people can't decide. And that was my biggest thing for creating the hand therapy mentorship program. Mm-hmm. It's literally for someone who doesn't have anyone to mentor them. It's literally for that person who can't get that job because they don't have experience, and can't get that experience because they can't get that job. And this is where we can work with someone to get them some skills, to get them some experience, to get them the thinking process right, so they can confidently go in and get certain jobs that will get them to get those other jobs that will eventually lead to the kind of job that they want. Some people love hand therapy, but don't necessarily want to do the most complex cases, right? And some really want to be the ones working next to the surgeons and all that stuff. So, but what's so great about OT is so many different ways that you can do it. I always say, well, thank God, majority of people have 2 hands and 2 arms. You could help them in any setting. Mm-hmm. You can be a hand therapist in any setting. Like all the people who work in adults, you got somebody in there with arms. I know you do. You can practice. Somebody's got arthritis. And don't discount them just because it's arthritis.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good.
Don't discount them. They have pain. They want to be able to move. They want to be able to use their arms. Just because they didn't have a flexor tendon doesn't mean that they don't deserve someone who knows how to help them. I actually spoke to someone, and I've been getting a lot of people requesting to speak to me, and they're from different countries. It's incredible. I was talking to someone last week. They told me the same exact words that you just said. Well, they come out of school and they can't get a job because they have no experience, but they can't get the experience because they can't get the job. The guy literally told me that, and he lives in a whole nother country.
Wow.
And I told him, I was like, holy shit. You are literally telling me right now from another country the same things that people who come to my clinic applying for my jobs and emailing me and from the United States, they're all saying the same thing. It's really incredible, you know? So, so I think that there's a space to, you know, in lots of different realms to be able to help therapists so that they can get more experience, they can develop their problem solving and critical thinking skills, you know, get that learning and then apply it so they can eventually get a job like you did inside a hand surgeon's office.
Cool. Real cool.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me. Can you tell people where they could go to find your books and your courses?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. It was a great pleasure to actually have this lovely chat, and I look forward to continuing to grow our businesses together because we're all on the same team. So it's super awesome to connect this way, and thank you.
We've spoken several times, but this is the first time we're meeting.
I know, it's really awesome.
I love it. Cheers.
Yeah, love it. So thank you.
I know, when you say cheers, you have to take a sip, right?
You do. It's
bad luck when you don't.
That's true. There you go.
I'm very superstitious, okay? So we can cheers as many times you want.
And we don't have to disclose what we were drinking. Just saying.
Absolutely not. It's my coffee mug.
That's right. I think I smell that coffee breath. Just saying. Anyhow, you guys can all reach me at handtherapy.com. That's really easy. Or liveconferences.com. Or Treatment to Go, which forwards and ends up at live conferences. So pretty cool, but my websites are old. I'm just saying, we've been working for over 2 years to redo them. Yes. This is a big project because I have over 100,000 people kind of in the system, and I want to like move everybody. So it's taken a while, but they will be new soon. I promise.
Okay. People can find you on social media too, right? Like Instagram,
of course,
YouTube, Facebook. Right? Do you have what would they look for? Would it be Exploring Hand Therapy?
I'm pretty sure it is for Facebook, Exploring Hand Therapy or Hand Therapy. And the same for the Instagram is Exploring Hand Therapy. Okay. And
well, I'm not going to put you on the spot. You don't have to remember everything. What I'm going to do in this YouTube video is I'm going to include your links down below.
Awesome. Thank you.
In the description, so people can find you easy. All they have to do is go read the description. They'll find out your website and how to find you all on social media so they can keep an eye on where you're going next.
Sweet. That's wonderful. So awesome.
All right, Susan. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you. See y'all later. Bye.
Bye.